guys, Ron here and welcome to the workshop. On the channel and on Instagram I get tons of technical questions regarding all things cycling, but two of them are quite prevalent and I decided to pick one of those today and elaborate. So these two things are tires, tire choice, rolling resistance, things connected to that, and chains, chain lubricants, and things connected to that, chain friction and rolling friction. So unlike, let's say, aerodynamics or bike fit or training, these are actually subjects where you can find the answers quite easily, and the products are very thoroughly tested and the results are readily available. So actually I think these two segments of cycling are areas where you can really quantifiably improve your performance with probably the least expensive way and also the most objective way. So yeah, these are drivetrain friction losses and rolling resistance losses. So talking about tires today, a little bit of history of my tire use. Back in the day when I started cycling around 5-6 years ago, I ran tubulars because everybody considered those to be the high-end option. Nowadays that's not really the case anymore, unless we're talking cyclocross or track or pro road racing, and then we have clinchers and tubeless options. Tubeless being the freshest and the cool option right now. So let's talk about tubulars briefly. I don't have those to show at the moment, just simply because I'm not using them anymore, because I have no compelling reason to. If you think you should be using them because pros use them, well, pros use them because they race in stage races and grand tours, and there, if at one of the stages you get a puncture and you can't continue riding, you're in big trouble because you're out of the race for the whole race. And that's why they ride tubulars. If you ride a tubular and you get a puncture, you can carry on until the team car catches you and you get a spare wheel and off you go. Not really an option with either clinchers or tubeless. Then in cyclocross you use them because they're very supple, very grippy, and you can run ridiculously low pressures, which other systems don't really allow. And in track use, it's the opposite. It's because they allow ridiculously high pressures, which are, as we know now, only beneficial at the smooth surface of the velodrome. So there you have it. Tubulars are for the road and general gravel mixed terrain riding, not really an option anymore. So let's talk about the two options that are left over, and those are clincher tires and tubeless tires. So these are very similar in one fundamental way, and that is the rim. Basically, both use a bead interface to lock onto that. Where they differ is that the tubeless tires, hint in the name, doesn't use inner tubes for air retention, while the tubed versions, the clinchers, regular clinchers, certainly do. Yeah, so after I stopped using tubulars, I went to Zip and various MV wheels, and those are all clinchers only. Back then tubeless wasn't really as cool as it is now, at least not on the road. So I ran Vittoria Corsas with latex tubes. Latex tubes was a good choice. I'm going back to that later. But those Vittorias I ran because Vittoria tubulars are great. So I thought the clinchers are great, so I ran that, and basically I didn't explore many other options. Then tubeless came in like a boom in the road cycling, and I switched on that bandwagon with the early Schwalbe Pro 1s and the Vittoria Corsa Speeds. Now, if you follow my channel, you know that I'm into time trialing. I'm a time trial specialist as for my racing categorization. So there it was a simple choice maybe up until now. So I'm talking about that first to get that out of the way. So this is a Vittoria Corsa Speed TLR. Until very recently it was the fastest tire available if you set it up tubeless, or with the latex tube it produced similar results, not as great though. And because of that tubeless setup, you also have a bit of puncture protection, which otherwise with a tire this thin wouldn't be the case. So I was on this on the first generation, now on the second generation for the last 4 seasons, and it's a great little tire for time trialing, and still is. Now though, there's a new kid on the block, namely the VeloFlex Record, and this is a clincher only. It's super thin, super supple, and very similar to the tire I'm talking about later. And it's basically an open tubular, so no vulcanized construction whatsoever, and it's quite a lot faster when set up with latex tube even than this one. So this is the tire I'm going to try next, because it really is the fastest option available right now. The elephant in the room here is the puncture protection, of which there is none. Whether it is needed or not, we'll see, because I'm going to run these tires for training also to see how they hold up. I have some information from the guys at AeroCoach that they're not catastrophic at all, so we'll see. There are many other time trial specific options now, but none of them really come close to these two. There are some clincher options from Continental, from Pirelli, from Michelin, and then you have the tubeless option from Schwalbe. And the thing is, really, none of them are as fast as the VeloFlex or the Vittoria. The problem with Vittoria is that it's not so aerodynamic. So even if you take Schwalbe for example, or one of those that I mentioned, Pirelli, Michelin, etc., and you put them on, those are slightly more aero, so basically you can have very similar setups within 1 or 1.5 watts of the Vittoria, and you're still good to go. So no really bad choices here if you're using the right methods. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how the Record performs. So those are time trial tires. Let's get those out of the way. Now for road racing tires. Now I also used the GP5000 TL a lot when it came out, and it's an excellent tire all around, but not my favorite. Why is it good? Why is it not? So generally, if you take a good tubeless tire, it's going to be faster than a good clincher tire with a normal butyl tube. So this is the ethos I was working around, so I chose tubeless tires for my road racing. First, this GP5000, as I said, it's very durable, it's very puncture proof, it's very fast. However, for most rims it's extremely hard to fit. Sometimes there are issues, at least I had with some of the customers, with not holding the air properly, losing pressure through the sidewall, not properly sealing. So yeah, it's very good in the performance aspect, very bad in the general usability and yeah, ease of setup, so should I say. And also it's quite harsh. It doesn't have the best road feel, but if you're after speed and you want a lot of puncture protection still, you don't want a time trial tire, then this is a good option. If your rim accepts that, it should be noted also these don't work on hookless rims, not at all in most cases. So yeah, that's another limiting factor. Then there was another very nice release, which is the Schwalbe Pro one. The new version, 2020 version, with the so-called Tubeless technology. And then after the Conti, I started using this tire for training primarily, if I have to admit. The reason for that is they still are not as puncture proof as the Contis, but close. They're lighter, they're much easier to set up, and they have a very nice road feel, hence Tubeless technology. Downside, they certainly do lack a bit in terms of the rolling resistance. They're slower, and not slightly, they're slower. So that's a compromise, but for training, general all-round riding, if you're not racing, it's a good tire. And there are a couple of nice alternatives coming out that have similar attributes to these. So we have the Pirelli P0, which I picked up because it's compatible with hookless rims, so that's a good option. The Schwalbe also is, but apart from these two, there are not very many around that are. So I picked this up. Then there are also the Michelin Power, that's very close to the performance aspect of the GP5000, although I don't have much personal experience with it yet. So these are the tubeless options that are quite nice nowadays. And now comes my confession. So for the last couple of years I've been focusing a lot on tubeless tires. I've ridden basically exclusively on them, and if I look back at that, in terms of pure road racing performance, that was a bit of a mistake, because I ignored one very serious competitor here. So what you do want from a road racing tire is to be as fast as possible with good grip, and a slight bit of puncture protection. So more grip and puncture protection than you would from a time trial tire. And that's for example where these tend to fit the bill quite nicely. But since I started off with track, I ignored specialized products at that time. So I've ignored this little thing, the Turbo Cotton, until the new Rapid CLX wheels came out, which are Clincher only. And I had to look back in the back catalog, should I say, for a Clincher only tire that would satisfy my needs. And of course Vittoria would be my choice, but then I, being a lot wiser now that I was 4 or 5 years ago, I went through the rolling resistance data that's available out there, and I realized, yeah, what a big mistake I was making. So because if you take this tire, Turbo Cotton, it's a similar construction as the Veloflex, so non-vulcanized cotton sidewall with just the rubber strip of the running thread surface stuck on there. This is why it's extremely supple. It's quite light too, and it's very fast when combined with a latex tube. And yeah, it's fast to that extent that it's almost as fast as this kind of tires. It's very close, but still has a decent amount of protection in there. It has this so-called black belt anti-puncture layer. So yeah, I started using this tire and I loved it. It has yeah, as I said, it's very fast, it's light, it looks cool. I really like the tan sidewall, and it's durable and sturdy enough. Of course, not the sidewall cuts and nasty stuff like that, which we can get in the winter, but for road racing, now with my current state of mind, I really wouldn't go for any other tire. Another notable mention would be the GP 5000 Clincher. Although this is not as fast as this and it's not as fast as the tubeless version, but it's slightly more puncture proof than this one, so could be an option. Very nice Clincher tire. In general, a lot of people like it. It's also much more supple than the tubeless version, so yeah, plus and minuses there. Although for weather like this that we're experiencing right now in the northern hemisphere, I think I would still go for some of the tubeless options for training. Yeah, so these are basically the tires that I will be looking at, or these are the ones that I can advise. So for time trialing, Corsa Speed TLR with the VeloFlex record waiting for my approval. With general road riding, I would say Schwalbe or some of the all-weather options for if you want more protection. And then for road racing, this guy, Turbo Cotton. Then we have a couple of more things to cover. So tubes. When talking about clinchers, there are tons of options nowadays. So there's the regular humble butyl tube. It's heavy, it's slow, cheap, not so interesting. Then we have the latex tube, super fast, bit tricky to install. You have to be careful with that. Not the lightest, but still lighter than regular version. This would be my pick for basically 99% of the applications. It also has a nice ride feel, so a very good one. And then there are all kinds of thermoplastic modern inner tubes. This is a Schwalbe Aerothan. This is a Tubelito, so these are lighter than either options of classic latex or butyl, and they're slower just because they're stiff, particularly this one, stiff thermoplastic. It's going to have higher hysteresis inevitably than a latex tube. So the best use for these, because of their size and ability to pack them, is to use as spares. If you go for a gravel ride, long road ride, or even mountain bike marathon, something like that, these are excellent as spares because they're light and don't take much space. As I said, from every other high performance application, it's latex for me. Which one? I get that question a lot also. Vittoria or this one is a challenge. I like the challenge a bit more because it's one piece, it's seamless. Sometimes the Vittorias disintegrate at the seams, so that's not very practical. There's this new Vredestein also in a sort of a skin color that's around 0.1 watt faster, so I haven't tried that yet, but I might, although I think those differences are so small that it's more or less within the margin of error of the test itself, so I'm not giving it too much attention. And then for the tubeless accessories, there's a debate of what kind of sealant should you use and how much. Around 30 ml for 30 to 40 ml depending on tire size, so 30 being on a lower end, 23, 25, 40 for a 28 is a good middle ground. as it has been tested also by our coach for good puncture protection and not much rolling resistance. Of course, you could run these tires dry without sealant. That's faster, but not by much and a lot riskier. So you're better off not doing that. And one thing that caught my attention recently, I don't have it here just yet, are little foam tire inserts for tubeless tires to provide, well, bottom out protection for the rim when you run low pressures. On the road it might not be so important, but for a gravel scenario where you don't have suspension on the bike, you have low pressures, particularly with tubeless, and you have a great potential of the rim hitting the ground. That's a very good option, so I'll be looking into that. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I can tell you, summarized in 20 or so minutes, my experiences from the past couple of years. So just to sum it up quickly: time trial, course speed or record, all-round use Pro 1 or GP 5000 or some of the alternatives if it fits you, and racing, road racing, turbo cotton. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I hope you have found this useful and informational. If you want to know more about my equipment choices, then don't forget to tune into the channel later on. Off the day. See you next time.